Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of Indexer Office Hours. Today is the 17th of September and this is Indexer Office Hours 175. For anyone who is new to Indexer Office Hours, this is the town square where ecosystem participants come together and discuss the most important and relevant topics for indexers. This is a conversation, as always, and we love your participation, again, as always. And if you'd like to get involved in today's conversation, please do via the voice chat in the corner, please do via the chat box in the corner, or by unmuting your mic. And if you're having any challenges unmuting your mic, let me know, and I will get that sorted for you. As a reminder, this is a session that is recorded and posted onto public channels like YouTube. So if you are concerned about privacy, please bear that in mind. And with that, let's get into today's agenda. So we are going to give a shout out to the latest GRT IQ episode, which is 186 with Mark. And Mark is the CEO and co-founder of Fuse. And Fuse is a Web3 platform that's trying to integrate the world of Web3 and, what does it say? I have filter requests. Okay, yeah, sure. That's fine. I'll slot you in, Nick. Fuse is a Web3 platform that for business and finance, and it is all about merging the worlds of Web3 payments and the rest of the world. So it's a very interesting episode. It talks a bit about his background in payments, how he got into the tech scene. He has a background in he served in the Israeli military. So if you're interested in learning a bit about Mark's background, the company he's running right now, go check out the episode right there. And then the second thing that I'm going to shout out here in the opening remarks is something that we don't usually do, but we have new access for Solana that has been a deepening of the access to the Solana blockchain that is worth mentioning. So I'm just going to post a post there. I won't spend too much time talking about it, but just link you to the post there. It's a very exciting development that has recently just been dropped, so I thought it's worth mentioning. And with that, let's get into. Okay, so I filtered around the time of one. Okay, well let's throw you in now, Nick. Why don't you just grab the mic and say your announcement there?
Thanks. Can you hear me, Abel?
Yes, loud and clear.
Cool. Sorry about that. I usually try to get on the agenda in advance, so appreciate your flexibility. And yeah, a lot of announcements this week at the Graph, which is super cool. Yesterday's Solana was great, and we have teams over at Breakpoint and Token 49 trying to promote and evangelize our new support. So super cool. I did want to let the Indexer community know that this week we'll be making formal announcements regarding the support for Fuse and Blast. And so for anybody tracking those snapshots, you've probably seen that the council has voted and have confirmed that indexing rewards will be enabled on both of those chains. And so I believe the announcement in partnership with Fuse will go out tomorrow, and then the Blast one should go out Thursday or Friday. So those are the updates that I have. Thanks for the time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing there. Okay, well, now we hand over to Anna for our regularly scheduled Repo Watch section.
Thank you, Abel. Hello, everyone. Okay, so Repo Watch today, it's quite light. Starting with execution layer clients, we have a new release. So this is version 20.60.8. This release is mandatory for all Polygon users, and that's because it schedules the Ahmedabad hard fork and the Gandhi Agar hard fork for Amoy. Then we have a new release for Firehose Ethereum. This is version 2.7.3. This contains more bug fixes such as cursor handling, store size limits, pass-through mode, and module execution. But please be careful because there is a breaking change which requires deletion of all specific empty module cache files for consistency. So check the release notes to get that specific hash where you need to delete those cache files. Then we have a new 𝗨𝗀𝗀𝗳𝗏𝗀 Nitro version. This is version 3.1.3, release candidate 2, which includes a native tracer for stylus calls, adds multiple stability improvements, includes some fixes for database corruption, as well as invalid state issues in Go Ethereum. Some user-facing improvements are the ability to force rebuilding the local WASM store and support for rebuilding it on initialization. This release also comes with some breaking changes that include the need to replicate default flags in the entry point when overwriting it. And then there are some more breaking changes for validators. Okay, and then that's basically it on execution layer clients. Consensus layer clients, we have nothing this week. Graph stack, nothing new. And this is a Launchpad stack update. So the bi-weekly update. So here we have released new versions of stable charts versions of Aragon and Nimbus that track upstream dependency. We have released a new graph network indexer that has support for the newer for TAP, which we'll talk about in more detail in the next sections for today. And then we also released the Canary version for Firehose Ethereum. This is we're still in testing, and yeah, looking for feedback on that one if you have any. On Launchpad namespaces, we have new stable versions of Ethereum namespace, Gnosis namespace, Cello, and monitoring. And that is it this week from RepoWatch. So handing over to Juan. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, getting into Protocol Watch. For forum governance and forum research, we don't have new updates since last IOH. For the contracts repository, we do have 2 open PRs related to Horizon, mainly adding stakes to fees ratio and to the subgraph service initialization, as well as deploying Horizon with hard hat ignition. And then for the network subgraphs, we have a small release for the core network subgraph. Many of you probably already seen this, but it was a security hotfix that we needed to release quite quickly for curator data. There was a small edge case where a malicious participant could essentially crash the subgraph by utilizing some of the a particular edge case on the signaling on the creation contract instead of GNS. That is fixed on the subgraph, so no worries now. It is published for Arbitrum 1, and we are waiting on a transaction to be signed and executed for Sepolia and Arbitrum Sepolia, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, I'm gonna be handing over to Paka now.
Oh, let me share the link. All can watch in real time as well, but I just have a little speed run of an update from GraphNode. So, autografting is coming. You've complained. We heard in regards to Sweet Time. We were really busy doing a lot of stuff, and we're finally getting around to it. And I just wanted to shout out Dan for really leading the charge on developing a solution here, but just wanted to tease that a fix is coming for this. I know this is a pain point. Did some internal digging with the data science team, and it's something like a little under 10% of subgraphs involve graphing to some extent, and then a little over 10% of traffic on the network actually involves a grafted subgraph to some extent. So it's a pretty big part of the network traffic, and so I'm really excited to see how this fix will make your lives easier. Um, and more updates coming soon. But that's really all I wanted to share today. And thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, the video didn't load for me as well, but I used the link there to see the slides. It's basically just like 3 slides with the second one being the main one with a link. It's yeah, so you can go ahead and check it out there. It's all good. Don't worry about it. These things happen. Okay, wonderful. So now we move on into the open discussion. And for that, we have an exciting announcement. If you guys remember, last week we spoke about TAP, and today we have even more updates, and we have Gustavo from Semiotic to tell us all about that. So without further ado, Gustavo, feel free to take the mic.
Hello, everyone. Let me share my screen first so you can see what I have to share with you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Perfect. And now, it's still working?
Yes, we can. Yeah, it's full screen now.
Okay, perfect. So we finally have TAP release. So this is a really big announcement that we are currently, that we announced today. So we are gonna have a brief overview. What is TAP? What are the new components? Some documentation links. And yeah, first of all, I would like to thank Alexi and Carlos, and which they are here because they are part of the team. I'm here presenting, but they're also part of that. And let's get started. So what is TAP? Basically, a brief overview is that it's a new payment system. The goal is to have a trust minimized and to have multiple gateways. So currently we only have one gateway and we would like to have more than one. So that's why we needed a new payment system. TAP was already discussed on other IOH, so IOH 22, you have the link, you also have the QR code. And if you want to get deeper knowledge how TAP works, you can take a look on this link or the QR code. So the new components that we have for TAP are, well, we have a new indexer service RS. So this is a replacement for the current indexer service. The goal for it is to be more stable, to have more performance. It was a really big pain, the older indexer service. And now also it supports TAP. So when you move to TAP, you get for free this better performance and stability. We also have a new component called TAP Agent. So the way TAP works, we want to make sure that the balance of the receipts never go more than what we have on the scroll on our smart contracts. So we need to keep track of that. So you can have multiple indexer services, but a single TAP agent that keeps track of all of that. It also can allow and deny bad gateways, because now that we don't trust the gateways, in case some of them wants to have like to be malicious and send queries without paying, we can deny them. TAP agent also aggregates receipts into revs, which later you can redeem on the blockchain. And more information about TAP agent, Anna's next presentation, you can have on Anna's next presentation. Also, we have an updated indexer agent to support the redeem the revs. And as a new component, we also have a new TAP subgraph, keep track of screw accounts, and of course connect like what are the senders that we have, what are the screw accounts, what is the balance, that kind of stuff. So the current minimum version for you to run TAP is indexer service RS. We have these two, both indexer service and TAP agent, using the version 1.0.0 RC6. that should be released, the version 1.0.0 soon. And also we have indexer agent on a specific commit hash, but also the minimum version should be the next release, the version 0.21.5, probably on this week, hopefully. Running the new stack. So it's really easy to run tap. Basically, you need to create a config. You have a template and also a QR code there. And with that config, you can have like default values. You can set up the maximum amount you are willing to lose, some database connections, all that kind of stuff. And then you remove the older indexer service, deploy the new indexer service RS with this config. You also deploy the tap agent using the same config. So this is a really good thing where you can use a single config and it works for both components. Last thing, you add the tap subgraph flag on your indexer agent, and that's it. You are running tap. So also, if you want to use our build Docker images, we already have them. So those are the links, and you have the QR code here. And if you want to run the stack using Helm charts, we also have updated Helm chart and more information on the following presentation. So some links specifically to tap. Now we have a new indexer RS repo, an indexer repo, which is the indexer RS. So let me click here. Basically, here's where we have some documentation, the tap agent, and also tap service. If you want to create some issues, create any new feature request, you can go here on issues and new issues. You can create a bug report in case you find some bugs, feature requests in case you want, I don't know, some metrics or some other things that we are missing here on Indexer RS. So it would be really nice to have you guys helping us on this. Am I back here? Where's this? Let me refresh. Okay, slideshow. So here it is. It's on graph protocol/indexer.rs. And here is the link for the QR code for the repo. We also have a few other repositories related to tap. So mostly related to contracts, the subgraph. All of them are in github.com/semiotic.ai/timeline aggregation protocol, and also the timeline aggregation protocol contracts and the subgraph. Documentation. So for migration guide, you can use the graph docs. So let me click here. So we deployed a tap migration guide here. You can have all the environment variables, contract addresses, all the variables that you need to run tap. Also, you have a migration guide where you can get the image links, everything. And everything is on the graph.com/docs/tap. We also have a forum post that was posted a few minutes ago, which we announced tap, what we have. So what is tap? What are the new components? What we have here? Both of them are on these QR codes. So first QR code is for the graph docs, and the second QR code is for the forum post. The other links, especially related to indexer repository docs, they are here. We don't have a QR code for that, but basically this is an updated version with the contracts is the normal Arbitrum one. And also this is an internal doc if you want to have like a deeper knowledge, but it should be all translated to the graph docs. And a few other links and references in case you want is here you have the scalar tap core dev call where we talked about tap and also the GIP here on both QR codes. Let me get back here. And that's it. If you have any questions, of course, we are here to answer them. Otherwise, I think we are good on this.
Yes, we'll just give a little bit of time for people to ask questions. Let's see. So I can see that Alexis has responded to Marc-Andre, which is great. Any other questions, folks? Great opportunity to ask. Make sure that
Yeah, I can give a more detailed answer to Marc-Andre about how to migrate. It is important to close all your locations and stop doing business with the gateway, because the way the gateway knows that you're supporting the new tap stuff is by looking at the version of the indexer service you're running. And so if you're doing a rolling update, that's going to mess up with the gateway. So yeah, ideally you close everything, you stop all business, you don't get any new queries, you update all of the software, and then you reopen business. That's how you should do it.
I have a follow-up question to that, Alexis. So what happens if you've done a rolling update and you haven't closed allocations, and then you roll back to the previous version of indexer service, say in case you're testing and your configuration is not where it needs to be or whatever. So what happens with your allocations?
Well, it's the same thing. Ideally, you would close your allocations first, then roll back all. I mean, you don't need to roll back indexer agent, to be precise, as I answered before, but you'd stop the tap agent and you roll back the indexer service, and then you reopen business. But yeah, doing a rolling or if you do a rolling update, basically what's going to happen is that the gateway is going to expect you run a certain version of the software. It's going to communicate in such a way that corresponds to your version of the version of the software it thinks you're running, and it's basically going to fail the queries completely. It's going to fail the requests because the indexer service, if you're using the old one, it receives tap receipts, it's going to reject the queries, and the opposite also, the inverse is true. So yeah, not great, unless you're fine with having a bunch of failed queries and then the gateway being pissed at you for hours or days.
That makes sense. I was more worried about what happens with receipts between the two and all of that, but
yes, so
yes,
the
more of a
new
version thing.
the newer indexer agent supports redeeming the old scalar receipts and the new tap receipts. So that's good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. Any additional context you want to add to the question that Matthew asked? I guess it's pretty straightforward, but in case you do have any thoughts.
Yeah, so about migrating. So as explained in the forum post, we want to deprecate scalar, and in particular, what we really want to deprecate, or at least what Ford really wants to deprecate, is the TypeScript indexer service. So then we'll also deprecate scalar. And it's a matter of months, I guess, a few months. So you should get going. Ideally, you would first try on testnet, play it safe, get become confident that you understand what's going on in there and that you can serve queries and it all works. And then as soon as you're comfortable, move to migrate your mainnet setups. Also, I would add, just to make you feel comfortable, Semiotic's been secretly running in mainnet with TAP for a while, actually, for 2 months. We've fixed various bugs, etc. But I would say that for the past month, at least a month, maybe a little bit more, we've been running smoothly. So yeah, we've been redeeming query fees and serving queries, etc., etc. So yeah. So technically, we lied to you. Actually, it was deployed on mainnet for a little bit already, but we didn't want to ever have everyone jump in and if there were some remaining bugs. So there you go.
That is great news. That's always good to test. You got a little sneaky comment, which is quite funny, but yeah, always good to test. Okay, there are a couple more questions. So first one's from Jim. I'm not sure if I don't think you did respond to that, so go ahead and yeah, uh, respond to it. I'm happy to read out if you prefer.
Okay, the question was how much of a lift is replicating the existing service metrics? They're quite critical for testing. We're talking to the gateway and serving queries. So right now we currently have a lot of metrics already inside the indexer RS and TAP agent. I would say that TAP agent has better metrics, and we are still working. We are working to get up to the same level of metrics for indexer RS. So right now you can take a look on query metrics like how many queries per second, the average time, average latency for that kind of stuff. We still want to add more things, more granularity related to what are the allocations, what is the subgraph, but yeah, currently we don't have, and we are working on this. Is the new service going to reduce query latency? I would say that it's not going to reduce query latency, but if you have a lot of load, it's going to reduce query latency because we've tested both indexer service and indexer service RS. And for example, when you get like some amount of load, indexer RS keeps up, the P99 stays steady, while the indexer service TypeScript starts to degrade really, really fast. So if you have very few queries, it won't be that different. But if you have some amount of load, it's going to be better and also less resource intensive. You're going to use less memory. You're going to use less CPU. So yes.
The big news actually about memory is that it doesn't have memory leaks. So for those of you who are, we're struggling with the memory leaks of indexer service, that is fixed. I think we've been running for a month in prod, and it's been using 50 megabytes of memory continuously. So there you go.
We love that. We love that. Jim just put a follow-up in terms of his question, and he said maybe I'm missing something because metrics seemed quite sparse. So if you want to address that.
Yep. So right now the metrics that we have, they are different in a way that the same metrics that worked for indexer TS don't work for the new one. We have like a different metric. We are using auto metrics. which basically handles all of that for us. So we probably need to update that thing. So does that answer the question, Jim? Okay, getting to direct data nexus. Did the hosted service use the TypeScript indexer service, or is that a new component to the stack with the decentralized network?
I have some info on that. Well, a little bit, but Ford and I think Ford would be the one to ask for this. I think he's been talking about that. But the hosted service is migrating to the Rust version. Edge&Node's very excited about the performance improvements because, of course, they have a lot of load on the. I guess, Derek, you're talking about the upgrade indexer. I would think, right? In particular. Please correct me if that's wrong, but yeah, of course, that service is strained quite a bit, and the Rust version of the indexer service, it seems, would really help a lot with the upgrade indexer. But yeah, for more details, you should probably ask Ford. I think he's overseeing that.
Alrighty. Any more? By the way, it seems like Jim's question was answered, which is great. Okay, there is a question for the wider community. Who is 0x97?
Is this on testnet? Yeah, good question. Is this on testnet or on mainnet?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. I've been seeing that too. I think that's GraphOps playing with being a consumer, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, for testnet, if I'm not mistaken, GraphOps and Anna is deploying their own gateway and testing. So probably, and also there are a lot of other deployments of, well, testing. We were testing all the contracts and also some. So yeah, you probably may see some addresses there and they're testing, or maybe other gateways running.
Yeah, and an important. I mean, it was already conveyed in Gustavo's presentation, but one of probably the biggest side effect of TAP is that we're going to be open to have more gateways run by quote unquote less trusted parties. Not that we don't trust GraphOps, of course, but in general, right? We can let anybody run a gateway. So yeah.
Is that in the marketing, Alexi?
I'm fairly certain that it is.
It was the whole allow and deny gateways. So that functionality of being able to allow the gateways you trust and deny some of them.
Maybe I'll just post that log line on Twitter or something.
Alrighty. Cool. If you have any questions, keep them coming. I'm assuming Gustavo and Alexi will be in the chat responding and making sure your questions are asked. But in the meantime, we do have another topic, which is very exciting. And I will leave it to Anna, who will take us into that topic. So by all means, Anna, take it away.
All right, so this is building on what Gustavo and Alexis have already talked about, and it's still about TAP, and it's us adding support to Launchpad charts for TAP and how that changed. And I believe support for the Docker Compose is coming as well. I think Pain is currently testing. But yeah, just quickly going through a bit more detail. Before I start, full disclosure, Alexis, I've stolen some of your diagrams from previous presentations just because I like a visual cue. But yeah, those are none of the diagrams in these presentations have been created by me. It's all semiotic. Okay, so this is just about showing what has changed in the graph network indexer chart, which is part of Launchpad charts. For those that haven't yet gotten to the point of playing with Kubernetes, a chart is a way of templating and packaging Kubernetes resources into releases so that they're easier to manage. So I'll go straight to it. I hope I tried to keep it balanced, so it's not too much Helm charts related or Kubernetes related, but yeah. Okay, so I think you've seen this diagram, but if you haven't, it is in the previous talks. And in the context of what has changed with the Helm chart, with our Launchpad chart, the indexer agent has been updated to a newer version. Indexer service has been completely replaced, and tap agent has been added as a different and then in terms of how it all works, again, something that Alexis has shown, but it will make sense when you're migrating. So a user makes a query to the gateway. That query is forwarded to an indexer, to the indexer service. If the query is served, then there is a tap receipt created in the scalar tap receipts table in your indexer database, and the entries look a bit like this. And then so that's the scalar tap receipts. And then you have many more queries, and once a certain amount of queries have been created, a certain amount of receipts have been created, there are a bunch of CLIs that configuration fields that tell you when to create a RAV, so a receipt aggregate voucher, that will eventually be redeemable on chain. So the tap agent is the new component that takes those receipts from the scalar tap receipts database and requests a RAV to the tap aggregator, which is a component that a gateway would have to run. And you continue operations like that, creating many, many receipts and many, many RAVs. The second valid table in the indexer database is the scalar tap RAVs. And here you can see stuff like allocation ID for each allocation. You can see some senders, and you can see the RAVs that have been created. Very important. So the value of the the value of the each allocation and each RAV. And then there's this final and last field. Whether last is true or false depends on whether an allocation has been closed or not. So for example, the fourth allocation here hasn't been closed, so that means that both final and last are still false. and then you have a bunch of allocations that have been redeemed. So once an allocation has been closed, there's a notification that goes to the TAP agent yes, so you replace the latest RAV. So a receipt is marked as last. Then that receipt is sent to the, I think there's a few diagrams missing here, but then the indexer agent would request an on-chain redemption. If that redemption is successful, then that is what marks a receipt as final, as in it has been redeemed. Those I just found as part of testing, those were very important to validate the end-to-end flow. Thank you, 𝗨𝗂𝗂𝗧𝗂, for helping me make sense of all of this. But yes, more details in the previous presentations as well. All right, so that's sort of how the different components are working together. As a reminder, and what you see in cluster. This was the final diagram that I was looking for. So you get the final RAV, so marked as final. The indexer agent makes the request on chain. It checks against the TAP escrow contract, which is something that now the indexer agents need to reference. Okay, so what has changed in terms of Launchpad chart for the graph network indexer? As I said, there's indexer service has been replaced. Indexer TAP agent has been created as a new component, and they both rely on a config.toml. Currently, the way the chart is written is that it forces you to provide a config.toml. If you don't, we give you a very minimal one, but you would probably need to add additional configuration, which you can add yourself, or you can use Launchpad namespaces. A big thing here is in terms of environment variable overrides. So every option in the config.toml can be overwritten with environment variables, but those the recommendation is to use config.toml. This is for two reasons. One of them is because it forces you to have less repetition, and say you need to add two specific deployment IDs with the different environment variables, you could introduce more mistakes. And very important here, which can trip a lot of people when moving to this setup, is the new format for the indexer variables. So it's indexer service or TAP agent, depending on what component you're running. And then toml heading from the config.toml, and then subheading if it exists, and then the actual config option. And I'll show that in more detail in the configuration in a second. Okay. The indexer agent itself still relies mostly on the CLI arguments, but the way the CLI arguments are created now in the chart is by computing anything that needs to be specified for service and TAP agent automatically, and everything extra the user would pass via values. And I hope this will make more sense in a minute. But it's important that both service and TAP agent run the same version and are passed the same config.toml. Another major change, well, not change, but addition, indexer TAP agent is running as a stateful set. to force only one replica at a time. We've also added support for TAP dashboard that is included in the main IndexRRS repository, and we've also added easy for me to say that, extensive documentations to help users make sense of how the chart works. Okay, in terms of next step, we still plan on adding better docs and more improvements. And we also plan on adding a stable release version of the graph namespace from Launchpad charts with the new component. We do have a canary version that users can use right now. We have tested that and used that in both Arbitrum Sepolia and Arbitrum 1, and it seems to work well. And that's all in terms of this presentation. However, I thought I should I do actually have resources. So links to Launchpad namespaces, Launchpad charts, and Launchpad starter, as well as docs. Some things I wanted to mention here. So this is the Launchpad chart if you haven't seen it before. Previously, there were only indexer agent and indexer service components. Now there's the TAP agent. You can see the docs here. Something that's important to mention is that anything that is passed into indexer defaults -config will be rendered as part of the config toml, and that same config will also be computed automatically for you for the agent args. And it's also important to make sure that anything that's specific for the indexer is passed under indexer agent.config. Let's see. I do have the Grafana dashboard that hasn't been shown, but yeah, the chart includes it. It looks a bit like this. So you can see total pending fees over balance. You can see unaggregated fees. You can see the receipt rate, RAV request rate. I haven't had any activity because this is testnet. You can see if any senders were blocked. And yeah, you can find this dashboard either in the IndexRRS repo or packaged with the chart as part of, yeah. And that's pretty much all I have. I feel like I went quite fast. Well, I will do that now. Any questions? I know that other people have tried it, and I also feel like we need to give InfraDAO a major shout out for testing. I don't know if that happened, for testing this as well.
Alexei has mentioned that he's been running the chart in question in prod for a few weeks. Do you want to share? Okay, great. You already did. Yeah, going really smooth. Much more. Nice, nice. Do you want to share anything else on voice?
That was pretty much it. Just I removed all the Kubernetes YAMLs I had and set up the chart, and it just works, and it's great. So pretty much all of everything I'm running is a GraphOps chart, I guess, in my cluster. So there you go.
I guess because we did mention migration before, worth mentioning that if you're running namespaces and you just update what you point your namespace to instead of stable to canary, or if you're already using the setup from Launchpad Starter, it would automatically migrate everything for you. There might be a few things that you need to add. For example, let me think. Do you need to add anything? If you're already set up, the only thing that would be specific would be your indexer address, but you're already set up, so you don't have to change that. So if you're running any of the stack, it would just be a matter of redeploying, and that would replace your indexer service and add tap agent. So that's one of the benefits from that. That's why I was asking before about migration. My question was more, I was trying to make sure if it has an impact on data. I was able to roll forward, so with this new version, on mainnet and then roll back without having to manually delete anything. But obviously that only happens if you use namespaces. Otherwise, there's a few other manual steps to do.
Amazing. Any questions? Now is the perfect time if you do have any. Oh, yes, that would be amazing, Jim. Would you mind speaking to that a little bit now, if you can?
Not much to say. I've been running it in prod. I just upgraded as we're talking, actually, and it fixed some problems with my ravs not being requested properly. Yeah, I've deployed it in my own new stack, so I'll need to sanitize it, but it works. And I've got the maximal config set up. So what I'll do is I'll try and sanitize those two containers, the tap agent and the indexer service, and I'll either write a gist, or if it's a reference guide or something that you want in the repo, then I can make a PR, Alexei, if you want something in the repo. I don't know, gist or a fork, a PR.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good tidbit. Thanks for sharing, Vince. Does it usually get it in one shot, Vince, or do you have to go back and forth a little bit to make sure it's correct?
No, I got it in one shot. I fed it the entire indexing stack compose in one single compose, and it showed me exactly how the indexer stack works in one shot.
That's incredible. That is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, the better question is tell it to make it better.
Did you actually do that?
Yes, and it had some interesting insights with that.
Wow. What kind of stuff did it say?
Well, one of the main things was they wanted to introduce Redis for caching, and then just some networking layer level stuff with load balancing and things like that.
Very nice. Very nice. AI. The age of
Yeah,
AI is
that's
upon
interesting
us.
because originally we were thinking of using Redis actually, right? But then we thought that using the Postgres message passing was just as good for what we need. Actually, Claude is kind of wrong because Redis is not technically a message passing unless it was thinking of something else. But we could have used RabbitMQ, for example. But yeah, Postgres is a very simple and fast enough message. I don't know if it's message passing, message broadcast system, very simple, and it avoids indexers adding yet another component. So yeah, responding to Claude, I guess, not to Vince, but there you go. You can tell Claude my answer.
I love that. I love that. Um, Alrighty. Any further questions? We are at the top of the hour, but if anyone wants to squeeze in a last couple of questions, for any of the topics we discussed today, Pili mentioned it was a great session. I completely agree. So much alpha. Yeah, we love it. So if anyone has any final questions, thoughts, anything they want to share, feel free to. Fantastic. Great to hear that you enjoyed it, Mark. And yeah. Okay, we see people typing. Okay, we've got a couple of thank yous. Amazing. Keeping open a little bit. Okay, all right. Seems to be getting a lot of thank yous. Okay, well, I'll take this opportunity to say thank you back to everyone for joining us today for today's session. And special thank you to all the speakers today for contributing. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, we hope that everyone got a lot of alpha here, learned a few things, and yeah, enjoyed today's session. So we will be back again, same time next week, as always, with even more exciting stuff. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.